Most people think inheriting an NFL team is like winning the lottery. For Carly Irsay Gordon, it was more like a 20-year job interview, starting as a marketing intern and officially joining the Colts as a vice president in 2008. While the world saw her as the owner's daughter, she was steadily climbing the ranks, representing the team at owners' meetings as early as 2004 and later becoming vice chair in 2012. This wasn't just a family handoff. Jim Irsay set out a clear succession plan, publicly declaring in 2012 that his children would inherit the team. But to understand why this strategy mattered so much, you have to look at what happened the last time the Colts ownership changed hands. Back in 1997, the Colts faced a crisis that would shape everything about their future. After longtime owner Bob Irsay passed away, the expectation was that his son Jim would take over. Jim had already been running the team as general manager for years, but what happened next was anything but straightforward. Instead of a smooth transition, the franchise was pulled into a public and bitter legal battle, one that started with a lawsuit from Nancy Irsay, Bob's wife and Jim's stepmother. Nancy's lawsuit wasn't just about inheritance. She accused Jim of conspiring to manipulate his father and take control of the Colts. Suddenly, the fate of the entire franchise was being argued in courtrooms instead of boardrooms. This wasn't a private family squabble, it was a high-stakes legal showdown, with every new allegation becoming front-page news. Indianapolis fans watched as the team's future hung in the balance, overshadowed by headlines that painted a picture of a fractured family and a team in turmoil. The uncertainty didn't stay confined to the legal documents, it seeped into every part of the organization. Front office staff, coaches, and scouts all felt the weight of not knowing who would ultimately control the team. How do you plan for the draft or negotiate contracts when the ownership itself is up in the air? That instability threatened to derail everything the Colts were building, making it nearly impossible to focus on football. For Jim Irsay, the experience was more than just a fight for control. It was a lesson in how quickly a legacy could unravel without a clear plan. The public nature of the dispute exposed just how vulnerable a team could become when succession is left to chance. He saw up close how personal conflict could put the entire business at risk, and how the community's trust could be shaken by family drama playing out on the evening news. Eventually, the lawsuit ended with an out-of-court settlement. Jim retained control of the Colts, but the scars from that battle ran deep. The ordeal didn't just end with Jim taking the reins. It fundamentally changed his approach to leadership and succession. He realized that the future of the team depended not just on what happened on the field, but on making sure the next transition would never repeat the chaos of 19. So as soon as the dust settled, Jim Irsay went public with a promise. We're keeping 100% of the team and I'm passing it on to my children. This wasn't just a sentimental pledge, it was the cornerstone of a new, carefully crafted strategy. Jim was determined that the next generation wouldn't face the same uncertainty, and that the team's legacy would be protected by a clear, deliberate plan. That commitment set the stage for a very different kind of preparation, one that would play out quietly behind the scenes, shaping the next owner in ways few people outside the organization ever saw. For Carly Irsay Gordon, the journey to NFL ownership was never about shortcuts or empty titles. Her path began with a marketing internship, a role that looked ordinary from the outside, but was actually the foundation of a much bigger plan. Carly's early days weren't just about shadowing executives or attending a few meetings. She was expected to learn every aspect of the Colts business, from ticket sales to branding and fan engagement. This wasn't a summer job for the owner's daughter. It was the first step in a rigorous 20-year apprenticeship designed to build a leader from the ground up. What set Carly apart wasn't just her last name or her presence in the building. Her academic background was anything but typical for an NFL executive. She holds degrees in psychology, geoscience, and religious studies, fields that seem far removed from professional football. But this unconventional mix gave her a unique perspective, letting her approach problems with creativity and insight that set her apart from the usual candidates. It's this blend of skills that would eventually become one of her greatest assets as she moved up the ranks. By 2004, Carly was already representing the Colts at NFL owners' meetings, a responsibility that put her in the heart of the league's top decision-making circles years before she held any formal executive title. These weren't ceremonial appearances. She was at the table where billion-dollar television deals were negotiated and league policy was shaped. This early exposure to the NFL's power structure gave her a front-row seat to the business of football at its highest level. Then in 2012, Carly and her sisters were officially named vice chairs and owners, formalizing the roles they had been preparing for over the previous decade. But Carly's responsibilities didn't stop at the boardroom. She became deeply involved in football operations, the side of the business where draft picks are made, trades are negotiated, and rosters are built. Traditionally, this world is dominated by former players and career scouts, but Carly made her mark with a hands-on approach. Her real test came when Jim Irsay had to step away for rehab. Carly took over the day-to-day operations, making high-stakes decisions under intense pressure. This wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was a real-world trial that demanded quick thinking and steady leadership. Her performance didn't go unnoticed. Former Colts coach Bruce Arians, known for his blunt honesty, called Carly a sharp business person with authentic people skills. That combination, business smarts and genuine interpersonal ability, was exactly what the organization needed. Ryan Grigson, the former general manager, went a step further. He praised Carly's deep understanding of football, confirming that her knowledge wasn't just surface level or inherited. It was earned, respected, and trusted by those whose livelihoods depended on the team's success. By the time Carly Irsay Gordon was officially in charge, she had moved far beyond her beginnings as a marketing intern. She had become a true football executive, equipped with a broad education, real-world experience, and the respect of her peers. But running a successful franchise is only part of the story. To truly shape the future of the Colts and the NFL itself, she needed influence that reached beyond her own organization. That next step would require a different kind of power, one that could only be built in the league's inner circles. Inside the NFL's power corridors, influence is measured by your seat at the table and the committees you serve on. For Carly Irsay Gordon, stepping into these rooms was the real test of her readiness to lead, not just the Colts, but as a force within the league. These committees are where the business of football actually happens: media rights, capital investments, and league security. It's not about who can call the next play. It's about who understands how the league stays profitable, relevant, and protected. Jim Irsay didn't just want his daughter to know the Colts inside and out. He wanted her to gain the kind of league-wide perspective that only comes from being embedded in the NFL's most influential groups. Carly's first major assignment was on the media-owned and operated committee, the nerve center for broadcast rights and media partnerships. This is where the NFL's billion-dollar deals are negotiated, where the league's presence on television and digital platforms gets shaped. Sitting on this committee gave Carly first-hand knowledge of how the NFL generates its massive revenue and how every decision about media impacts the bottom line for all 32 teams. But her education didn't stop there. Carly also joined the 32 Equity Committee and the Strategic Capital Fund, two groups that act as the NFL's investment arms. These committees make the calls on funding for stadium projects, new technology, and other ventures designed to keep the league ahead of the curve. Participating here meant understanding not just the finances of one franchise, but the strategies that drive the league's long-term stability and growth. She learned how investments are chosen, how risks are balanced, and how every financial move can shape the future of the NFL. On top of that, Carly took on a role in the Security and Fan Conduct Committee. This is the group that handles some of the league's most sensitive issues, protecting the NFL's brand, making sure fans are safe, and setting the tone for how the league responds to player conduct and public controversies. Here, Carly learned what it takes to manage a brand that's always in the spotlight, and how to navigate situations that can turn into crises overnight. It was a crash course in reputation management, legal risk, and public trust. Each committee gave Carly a different angle on what it means to run not just a team, but a piece of a billion-dollar sports empire. Media rights taught her about visibility and revenue. Investment committees gave her a view into growth and financial health. Security and conduct showed her the importance of brand protection and crisis management. These weren't just boxes to check, they were deliberate steps in a plan to prepare her for the top job. By the time Carly Irsay Gordon was ready to step forward as CEO, she had already learned how the league works from the inside out. Her committee experience completed a leadership education that went far beyond anything you'd find in a textbook. And as the Colts transition unfolded, it became clear that this approach wasn't just about one person. It was about building a foundation strong enough to withstand whatever challenges the future might hold. Deliberate succession planning can shape a franchise's future more than any Super Bowl win. The Colts didn't just hand down a team, they built a structure designed to prevent the chaos that nearly tore the organization apart decades earlier. Carly Irsay Gordon now serves as CEO, fulfilling the NFL bylaw that requires a single principal owner, while her sisters Casey Foyt and Kaylin Jackson fill executive roles that play to their strengths. Each brings a different skill set, creating a leadership team that is rare in the league. But could this family-centric model become the new standard for NFL ownership? Let us know what you think in the comments. Does the Colts approach set the blueprint for the future, or is it a risky experiment?